Have you ever walked into your garden expecting to see healthy vegetables and flowers, only to discover that the fresh new leaves are curled, sticky, and covered with tiny green, black, yellow, or even white insects? At first, it may seem like a small problem. After all, they're tiny. But within just a few days, those little insects can multiply into thousands, weaken your plants, spread diseases, and reduce your harvest dramatically. The good news is that you don't need harsh chemical pesticides to win this battle. In fact, many experienced gardeners rarely use chemicals against aphids at all. Instead, they rely on simple natural techniques that are safer for people, pets, pollinators, and the environment, and surprisingly, these methods often work even better because they help restore balance in the garden instead of disrupting it. Today, you'll learn exactly why aphids appear, what attracts them, the biggest mistakes gardeners make, and the most effective natural solutions that stop infestations without harming beneficial insects. By the end of this video, you'll know how to protect vegetables, herbs, fruit trees, berry bushes, roses, and ornamental flowers using methods that have been trusted by gardeners for generations. Let's get started. The first thing to understand is your enemy. Aphids are tiny sap-sucking insects. Although each one measures only a few millimeters, they reproduce at an incredible speed. During warm weather, a single female can give birth to live young without mating, and those offspring mature in just a week or two. That means what starts as 10 aphids today can become hundreds next week and thousands shortly afterward. Most gardeners don't notice them until the population has already exploded. Aphids usually gather on the softest parts of plants. Look closely at new shoots, young leaves, flower buds, the undersides of leaves, and tender stem tips. These insects pierce plant tissue and continuously feed on the sugary sap flowing through the stems. As they feed, they weaken the plant, causing curled leaves, distorted growth, yellowing foliage, and poor flowering. Fruit and vegetables often become smaller because the plant simply doesn't have enough energy left to develop them properly. Another clue is something called honeydew. Honeydew is the sticky liquid that aphids leave behind while feeding. If leaves feel sticky or shiny, aphids may already be present even if you don't immediately see them. This sticky coating also encourages black sooty mold, which blocks sunlight and reduces photosynthesis even further. Many gardeners mistakenly think the mold itself is the disease, when the real culprit is the aphid colony hiding nearby. Aphids are also dangerous because they can spread plant viruses. When they move from one infected plant to another, they carry diseases that no spray can cure afterward. Stopping aphids early is much easier than dealing with virus-infected plants later. So why do aphids suddenly appear? One major reason is stressed plants. Plants weakened by drought, inconsistent watering, poor soil, or nutrient imbalance produce softer growth that's easier for aphids to feed on. Ironically, another common cause is giving plants too much nitrogen fertilizer. Many gardeners assume that more fertilizer means healthier plants. However, excessive nitrogen creates lush, soft, juicy shoots that aphids absolutely love. It's like serving them an all-you-can-eat buffet. Balanced fertilization produces stronger tissues that insects find much less attractive. Warm weather also accelerates aphid reproduction. Mild spring temperatures allow colonies to develop rapidly before natural predators have time to catch up. This is why early detection is one of the most powerful tools any gardener has. Checking plants for just a few minutes every couple of days can prevent weeks of frustration later. Now here's something fascinating. Not all insects in your garden are enemies. Some are actually working for you every single day. Ladybugs, lacewings, hoverflies, and tiny parasitic wasps feed heavily on aphids. One ladybug larva can eat hundreds of aphids before becoming an adult. Unfortunately, many gardeners accidentally kill these helpful insects by spraying broad-spectrum insecticides. The chemicals eliminate both the pests and the predators. Without predators, Aphids often return even stronger because nothing is left to control their numbers naturally. That's why natural gardening focuses on creating balance instead of trying to eliminate every insect. One of the biggest mistakes beginners make is panicking at the first sign of aphids and immediately reaching for the strongest pesticide they can find. This often creates a cycle where chemicals must be used again and again because the garden loses its natural defenses. Another mistake is ignoring the first few aphids. People often think there are only a handful. But remember how quickly they reproduce. Those few insects rarely stay few for long. A third common mistake is spraying only the tops of leaves. Aphids usually hide underneath leaves where the spray never reaches. Always inspect both sides carefully. Some gardeners also forget about nearby weeds. Many weeds act as reservoirs where aphids reproduce before moving on to vegetables and flowers. Keeping the area around your garden reasonably clean reduces hiding places without eliminating all wild plants that support beneficial insects. Ants are another important clue. If you notice ants constantly climbing your plants, pay close attention. Ants actually protect aphids because they feed on the sweet honeydew they produce. In exchange, ants defend aphids from ladybugs and other natural predators. It's a remarkable example of cooperation in nature, but unfortunately, it works against gardeners. Breaking this partnership often makes natural aphid control much more successful. The encouraging news is that every one of these problems has a natural solution. You don't need expensive products or toxic chemicals. Simple ingredients, beneficial insects, companion planting, and a few smart gardening habits can dramatically reduce aphid populations while keeping your garden healthy for the rest of the season. Now that you know why aphids appear and how quickly they multiply, let's talk about what actually works to eliminate them naturally. The first method is also the simplest, and many experienced gardeners consider it the most underrated. Start with plain water. If you've discovered aphids early, you may not need any spray at all. A strong stream of water from a garden hose can knock hundreds of aphids off a plant in just a few minutes. Since aphids are tiny and weak climbers, many of them cannot find their way back once they've fallen to the ground. Focus on spraying the undersides of leaves, tender shoots, and growing tips where aphids like to gather. Hold the stem gently with one hand if necessary to avoid damaging delicate plants. Repeat this every 2 or 3 days for about a week. You may be surprised at how dramatically the population declines. This method works especially well on tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, fruit trees, roses, currants, beans, and many flowering plants. Timing also matters. Spray plants early in the morning so the leaves have time to dry during the day. Wet foliage overnight can sometimes encourage fungal diseases, especially during humid weather. Remove heavily infested shoots. Sometimes a colony becomes concentrated on just 1 or 2 growing tips. Instead of trying to save every leaf, simply prune off the worst affected shoots. Place them directly into a bucket or sealed bag rather than dropping them onto the ground, where insects can crawl back onto healthy plants. This quick action often removes thousands of aphids in less than a minute. Remember that sacrificing one damaged shoot is much better than losing the entire plant later. Encourage nature's own pest control. One of the greatest advantages of chemical-free gardening is that you allow beneficial insects to do much of the work for you. Ladybugs are perhaps the most famous aphid predators. Both adults and larvae consume aphids every day. In fact, many gardeners mistake the alligator-shaped ladybug larvae for pests and accidentally remove them. If you see small black or grey larvae with orange markings, leave them alone, they are among your best allies. Lacewing larvae are equally impressive. Often called aphid lions, these tiny predators actively hunt aphids across leaves and stems. Hoverfly larvae, although less noticeable, also consume remarkable numbers of aphids. To attract these helpful insects, plant a variety of nectar-rich flowers nearby. Plants such as dill, fennel, yarrow, calendula, sweet alyssum, cosmos, and coriander provide food for adult beneficial insects while their larvae feed on pests. A garden filled with different flowering plants naturally supports a healthier ecosystem. Use a mild soap spray. One of the oldest and most reliable homemade aphid treatments is a gentle soap solution. The soap breaks down the protective outer coating of soft-bodied insects, causing them to dehydrate. However, more is not better. Using too much soap can damage plant leaves. Always use a mild liquid soap without bleach, degreasers, antibacterial additives, or strong fragrances. Spray only enough to wet the aphids, paying close attention to the undersides of leaves. Leave the solution on for a short period, then rinse with clean water if your plants are sensitive. Before treating an entire plant, always test the spray on 1 or 2 leaves and wait 24 hours to make sure no damage occurs. Neem oil is another natural option. Neem oil is derived from the seeds of the neem tree and has been used in gardens for generations. Rather than instantly killing insects like conventional pesticides, neem interferes with feeding and reproduction. Young aphids are especially vulnerable. Apply neem during the early morning or late evening when bees and other pollinators are less active. Avoid spraying open flowers whenever possible, and always follow the product's directions. For mixing and application. Garlic and hot pepper sprays. Many gardeners also prepare homemade repellents using garlic, onions, or hot peppers. These strong-smelling mixtures don't necessarily kill aphids immediately, but they make treated plants much less attractive for feeding. While results vary depending on weather and infestation levels, many gardeners use these sprays as part of a broader natural strategy rather than relying on them alone. Control the ants. Remember the partnership we discussed earlier? Where there are ants protecting aphids, natural predators often struggle to do their job. If ants are constantly climbing fruit trees or shrubs, consider placing sticky tree bands around trunks. These barriers prevent ants from reaching the colonies while allowing ladybugs and lacewings to attack the aphids freely. Sometimes simply interrupting the ants is enough to tip the balance in your favor. Companion planting makes a difference. Certain plants naturally help reduce aphid pressure. Strongly scented herbs like mint, thyme, sage, rosemary, and chives may confuse pests by masking the scent of nearby vegetables. Meanwhile, flowers such as marigolds, nasturtiums, and calendula increase biodiversity and attract beneficial insects. Interestingly, nasturtiums are often used as trap plants. Aphids frequently choose them over nearby vegetables, concentrating the infestation where it's easier to manage. Keep plants healthy, but don't overfeed them. Healthy plants are naturally more resilient. Water consistently during dry periods, mulch to conserve moisture, and feed plants with balanced nutrition instead of excessive nitrogen. Rapid, soft growth may look impressive, but it often attracts aphids like a magnet. Slow, steady growth usually produces tougher leaves that are less appealing to sap-sucking insects. Inspect your garden regularly. Successful gardeners don't wait until leaves are curling everywhere. They walk through the garden every few days, looking closely at new growth. Finding 10 aphids today is far easier to manage than finding 10,000 next week. This habit takes only a few minutes but can save hours of work later in the season. The combination of early detection, healthy plants, beneficial insects, and simple natural treatments is far more effective than relying on any single solution. No one method is perfect by itself, but together, they create an environment where aphids struggle to establish large colonies. So far, you've learned why aphids invade gardens, how to spot them before they become a major problem, and the most effective natural ways to remove them. But here's the secret. That experienced gardeners understand better than anyone else. The healthiest gardens aren't completely free of insects. Instead, they're balanced ecosystems where pests never get the chance to take over. That balance is what keeps plants thriving year after year with very little intervention. Let's look at how you can create that kind of garden. Build healthy soil first. Many gardeners focus entirely on fighting insects while overlooking the foundation of every successful garden, the soil. Healthy soil produces healthy plants, and healthy plants are naturally more resistant to pests. Adding compost each season improves soil structure, encourages beneficial microorganisms, increases water retention, and supplies nutrients gradually instead of all at once. Unlike heavy applications of synthetic fertilizer, compost promotes steady growth rather than the soft, lush shoots that aphids love. Mulching is another simple habit that makes a surprising difference. A layer of organic mulch helps maintain even soil moisture, reduces stress during hot weather, suppresses weeds, and encourages earthworms that improve soil health over time. Plants that experience fewer periods of drought stress are generally much less attractive to aphids. Rotate your crops. If you grow vegetables in the same location every year, pests often become established. Crop rotation interrupts their life cycle while also helping prevent certain soil-borne diseases. Even moving crops to a different bed each season can reduce recurring pest problems. Avoid overcrowding. It's tempting to squeeze as many plants as possible into a garden bed. But crowded plants receive less airflow, compete for nutrients and water, and are harder to inspect for pests. Good spacing allows leaves to dry faster after rain, reduces disease pressure, and makes it much easier to notice aphids before populations explode. Keep watching new growth. Remember, aphids rarely begin on older leaves. They prefer fresh shoots because the tissue is softer and contains more nutrients. Spend just a few minutes every week examining the newest leaves on vegetables, flowers, shrubs, and fruit trees. That simple habit may be the single most valuable form of pest control you ever practice. Don't panic if you see a few aphids. This may sound surprising, but finding a handful of aphids isn't necessarily bad news. A small population often serves as food for beneficial insects. If ladybugs, lacewings, hoverflies, and tiny parasitic wasps are already present, they frequently eliminate small infestations without any help from you. The goal isn't to destroy every insect. The goal is to prevent damaging outbreaks. Patience is often an important gardening skill. Help damaged plants recover. After an aphid infestation, your plants may look weak. Leaves may remain curled. Some flowers may drop. Growth might slow for a while. Fortunately, most healthy plants recover remarkably well. Continue watering consistently. Remove severely damaged leaves if necessary. Apply compost around the base of the plant. Avoid heavy nitrogen fertilizer while the plant is recovering. Given enough time and proper care, new healthy growth usually replaces damaged foliage. Watch the weather. Weather plays a surprisingly large role in aphid populations. Warm springs often encourage rapid reproduction. Heavy rain, on the other hand, naturally washes many aphids from plants. Periods of strong wind may also reduce populations. Learning to work with the weather instead of against it helps you decide when natural intervention is actually necessary. Be careful with homemade remedies. The internet is full of recipes claiming to eliminate aphids instantly. Some recommend strong vinegar mixtures. Others suggest concentrated dish detergent, alcohol, bleach, or highly concentrated essential oils. These treatments often damage plants more severely than the aphids themselves. Leaves may burn, flowers may drop, and young plants can even die. Natural gardening doesn't mean using every household ingredient. It means choosing methods that are both safe and effective. Whenever you try a new homemade spray, test it on a small section of the plant first and wait at least 24 hours before treating everything. Think long-term instead of looking for instant results. Chemical pesticides often promise immediate control. Natural gardening requires a little more patience. Instead of wiping out every insect overnight, you're creating conditions where pests gradually lose the advantage. As beneficial insects increase, healthy soil improves, and plants become stronger. Aphid outbreaks usually become smaller and easier to manage each season. Many experienced gardeners eventually discover that they spend less time fighting pests. than they did when they relied on chemicals. Here are the most important lessons to remember. Inspect plants regularly, especially new growth. Remove small infestations before they spread. Use a strong spray of water as your first line of defense. Encourage ladybugs, lacewings, hoverflies, and other beneficial insects. Avoid excessive nitrogen fertilizer. Grow flowering companion plants that support natural predators. Keep ants away from aphid colonies. Build healthy soil with compost and mulch. Practice crop rotation and proper spacing. Be patient and let nature help whenever possible. None of these habits are difficult. But together, they create one of the most powerful pest control systems available: a healthy, balanced garden. And perhaps the best part is that your vegetables, herbs, fruits, and flowers can be enjoyed without worrying about unnecessary chemical residues. Imagine walking through your garden and seeing vibrant tomatoes, crisp cucumbers, thriving roses, productive fruit trees, and lush herbs, not because you've sprayed stronger pesticides, but because you've created an environment where nature works with you instead of against you. That's the real secret behind successful organic gardening. If you found these tips helpful, let us know in the comments which plants aphids attack most often in your garden and which natural methods have worked best for you. Your experience could help fellow gardeners facing the same challenge. And if you enjoy practical gardening advice like this, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. We share simple, proven techniques to help you grow healthier plants, bigger harvests, and a more beautiful garden naturally. Thanks for watching, and happy gardening.